Okay, so this is 4.6, worked exercise 14b. So it gives this temperature of somewhere as this equation, and they say this is the domain, and they say T is the time in hours after 5 a.m., little t, and big T is the temperature in Celsius, and they want to know when the temperature is 20 degrees. So I just set the equation up, 20 equals that. Right? Now when you start doing this problem, you subtract 18, because I'm trying to solve for T, because they're asking me what time, and I get stuff like this. You know, these are not exact values. These are not the things that are on our trig table, and that would alert me right away to the fact that I would have to use a calculator to do this problem. You could think about things like, you know, where is the cosine negative, and that would be in these two areas, but to figure out what T is for this equation, you have to use your calculator. So you have a couple options. I'm just going to quickly do the first one where, because it's good to remember that to find, you know, an angle, that I use shift cos inverse, I hope you can see that, of 2 divided by -3, and that gives me a value. So I get 2.300 equals pi t on 9. So I multiply by 9, it's on the screen there, and I get 20.705 maybe equals pi t, and t equals that number divided by pi. So 6.59. So that's that first time. That's the time that's right here. Okay. A much easier way to figure that out and not have to go through the pain of figuring out this kind of situation over here is, you know, to graph this thing. So I typed in the equation and the 20, because that's what's on this side, and I want to see where those intersect. And on my window, I had to be kind of clever and say, okay, well, let's see, if I'm adding 18 to this, and then possibly adding 3 even, then I'm going to go up. I put 25 as my highest point. I know 20, it's above 20, so I just picked 25 for my max. And I knew my 0 to 18. I always put -1 so I can see the axis. Okay, so anyway, I graphed that and I got that. And so to make sure that I got the right number here, I can go second calc and go to the intersection, and I'm going to scooch over to this one, and it asks me about, you know, the first curve, and I'm on it, and the second curve, and I'm on it, and then I hit enter, and I sure enough got 6.5905 blah 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 right there. So that's great. So I did my working right here. I'm not going to do the working for the other one. It's too hard, and I would never have to do it anyway, because for this kind of problem you would have to have a calculator. So I'm going to go over here and find this other point. I'm going to hit second calc again, intersect, and I'm just going to scooch over so the calculator knows which intersection point I'm looking for. And I get or t equals 11.409 something. Okay? Now, they've asked me about the times, and so to the nearest minute, like the actual time. So this is 6.59 hours after 5 a.m., because that's what it said up in the problem. And to change hours to minutes, because I don't want that to be a decimal point, I want it to be minutes, I go 0.59 times 60, and that'll get me 35 minutes. So I go, okay, 6 hours and 35 minutes after 5 a.m. would be 11:35 a.m. Maybe you have to count that out on your fingers. I usually do, just to make sure I'm right, but that's the right answer to that one. And then I'll do 0.40, that's not a 4, is it? 0.409 times 60, just the decimal part. That gets me, you know, closer to 25 minutes if I round. So 11 hours and 25 minutes. And so if I count that out, that comes up to 4:25 p.m. Okay, I hope that helped you. Please don't even look at the solution that talks about doing it by hand, because there's no possibility that you would not have a calculator. Just to do this part of this problem, you would have to have a calculator. So there's no way. They say something in your book about, by hand or something, and that's insanity. There's no by hand with this type of question. And what tips you off to that is, one, it would be on a calculator exam, and two, this is not one of those exact values that's in my trig table, so there's no way I can solve for it without using shift cause. All right, well done.